So we've got Marco Rubio over there in France with the G7. And we've got President Trump celebrating. It's a National Agriculture Day. He's going to be talking to farmers. And that always makes me happy. Then we have DHS funded and TSA paid, maybe. I assume everything's going to get through the House. And then, of course, people want to know who won. I hate those people. But we'll play the game. I'll give you my thoughts. I'm Tony Katz. The show is Tony Katz today. The radio show is coming in. Let's do some good stuff. I have got the Secretary of State in France. He is at the G7 summit. The 7 most developed economies just getting together, having themselves some lunch, and talking about how to engage world domination. All right. I don't think that happens, but the lunch part I'm pretty sure about. Tony Katz today, guys. Good to be with you. Good to be here. Find everything at TonyKatz.com. Then the president is going to be at the White House. Is it National Agriculture Day? Is that the official name of the day? And there's going to be a conversation with farmers, but you know this is going to be a conversation about Iran and the 10-day pause now. That's right, an additional 10-day pause. And then, of course, his executive order saying we're going to pay the TSA agents. Can you do that via executive order? Direct the Secretary of Homeland Security to pay the TSA agents? And then the next thing you know, here come Democrats and Republicans to say, you know what? We'll fund the DHS. Not the whole of DHS. We won't fund ICE and Border Patrol, but ICE is funded through the one big beautiful bill. So what really is the loss here? Democrats didn't get any of their reforms, yet somehow I've got media painting this, phrasing this, positioning this, that it was a huge win for the Democrats. No one is surprised the press would do this? Huh. Shocking. Shocking indeed. So there is a lot to get into. And when Secretary Rubio starts, I'm going to bring it to him. When President Trump starts, I'm going to bring it to him. But this whole idea of winning and losing, we can break this down a couple different ways. But let's start where we start. If the argument after not paying Americans for 41 days for doing a job, if the argument after disrupting the lives of Americans, whether they be passengers, whether they be those who work at airports, whether they be those who work for airlines, gate staff or flight attendants or pilots, if after all of this, and all the disruptions people had and the issues with hospitality and hotels and restaurant reservations missed and family events missed. And if after all of that, the big question is who won, Republicans or Democrats? We suck. It's nonsense. This is the argument. Chuck Schumer putting out a statement. I'm so proud of my caucus. We held the line. What line? The line that we support as Democrats, illegal immigrants staying in the country and being opposed to ICE being able to operate at all. And if we had our way, we'd get rid of ICE altogether. We wouldn't deport a soul because we want those voters. Was that the win, Chuck? I mean, admittedly, you could argue that this is more of a win than the way you make cheeseburgers. But is that the win, Chuck? Because that's the basis. Every single part of what you saw of 41 days, and by the way, the House has got to vote and pass what it is that the Senate passed. Every part of this was not about Americans' lives, Americans' future, American safety, the American economy. It was about allowing people who are here illegally to have the opportunity to engage in voter fraud. Every last bit of it. Oh, call me any name you want. 833-GOT-TONY, 833-468-8669. I am happy to debate it. When I say debate it, I mean laugh at any commentary that says otherwise. Because there is no debate. And I put forth to you that I think Americans see it. And this is the part where I differ than my colleagues, fellow radio hosts, maybe not all of them, but enough of them. I see a lot of people discussing how Republicans are going to get slaughtered in the midterms, destroyed in the midterms, just eliminated and abused in the midterms. Maybe. Standard thought would absolutely bring you there. The party in power is going to lose. I don't think that this is a surprise to anyone. But I have laid out pathways for Republicans to have victory here. In this shutdown, when Democrats started pushing the idea, well, we'll just fund the TSA. Here's a bill. We'll fund the TSA. Come on, let's fund the TSA. Let's get these lines short and let's get people going where they're going. Let's fund the TSA. And Republicans said, no, we're going to fund the Department of Homeland Security. We're not going to play this game with you. I said, well, Republicans are going to lose this battle because Republicans should have been jumping on this much earlier. They could have taken advantage of it. They didn't because they're not good at doing those things. They're afraid of doing those things, whatever it is. And here come the Democrats with this plan. And, well, all right, Democrats are going to steal their thunder. They're going to steal the whole story, and that's it. That was 2 weeks ago. They didn't steal anything. They didn't steal anything at all. It didn't work. It didn't capture the attention of the American people. There was no drumbeat about this from the American press. It's like it was a non-starter. Democrats had a moment and it didn't work. And I'm sorry, I'm stuck on the why. And the only thing I've been able to come to about the why is the same thing I come to regarding Republicans and Democrats wanting to figure out who won this fight. Who cares? Americans lost this fight and they're PO'd about it. I think that is correct. I think that's accurate. And if it is, because you could argue that this is naivete on my part. You could argue that I'm just being hopeful and really cute, which I am. I mean, look at this face. Damn. Possible. I don't deny that it's possible. But am I wrong? Democrats went down this road, a road that should work for them, and it didn't work for them. Why not? The media should have been all over this. Just drilling it into people's heads. They didn't. Why not? Because there was a war going on in Iran. These people are completely capable of doing two things at once. Why not? The only thing I can come to is that it didn't connect. If it didn't connect, they spent 41 days not paying TSA. Because whatever you think about TSA, I am not a fan. I want privatized security. I don't think they do a good job at all. I think it is a nonsense system where the TSA agents are abusive to the passengers. I think it's part of the massive problem we have in flight and with America, and it has to stop. They are the ones who have to be retrained, and we have to rethink the entire process. But it's a job, and they get paid for it, and now they're not getting paid. What do we expect from them? It would be a silly thing to expect them to still show up on the job and do the thing. 41 days, are you doing that? And Democrats did it joyfully. We're not paying them. All for the sake of illegal immigrants. And that's the narrative that is held. And what I'm saying to you is that the true, I think I've got it right, the winners and losers conversation is what makes us hate them with passion. Winners and losers, Chuck Schumer, you scummy things you can't say on radio. And who? What do you mean who won? Is that what this is about? You having you're Randolph and Mortimer Duke, and now you handed John Thune $1 because he won or he handed you one? People's lives are on the line. Quite literally on the line. Who won? But I am not so foolish as to not note that there is a political to all these things. And And I guess you could argue that Republicans could have agreed to this a week or so ago, 2 weeks ago, whatever it is. I guess you could have done. You could say that, but no one's saying that. Democrats said we could fund TSA just by itself, and it never went anywhere. The media did not pound on that, did not push Republicans on that ever. It went nowhere. Why? And the only thing I can come to is that America has already made up their minds. Now, which way did they make it up? Did they say this is Democrats' fault and just leave the thought process ending there like a dangling participle just hanging in the air? Or did they say these Democrats care way more about illegal immigrants than they do about me? They think they take my vote for granted. They take me for granted. They take everything about us for granted. They really don't care. Maybe it's naivete. But I hope that's the case, that people are waking up to the realization that this progressive party cares more about the illegal, more about power than they do about the people. More about party, more about power than it is about people. More about control than it is about country. And dear Lord, that is an opportunity for the midterms I did not expect. I don't mean Republicans will necessarily be victorious. I am saying this idea of some great slaughter, maybe that's people speaking too early when we talk about November. Marco Rubio is scheduled to speak after the G7. President Trump is speaking from the White House to farmers and about, I think it's National Agriculture Day. So everybody gets some beets and we will enjoy. No, I meant the food, not the earbuds. Sorry. You're going to have to get with Dr. Dre on your own. I'm Tony Katz, and this is Tony Katz Today. So, hey guys, I just got to write this back. There we go. You guys know that in addition to the radio shows, I took over my late father's credit card processing business. So we have clients and people who accept credit cards for their business, and so that's what I'm doing right now. During the break, I'm working on that. Man, so Rubio is not yet speaking. This wait, is Trump gone early? No. I did not expect I would have expected Rubio to be on time. I would have expected that to happen on time, but that hasn't yet. So we'll keep an eye on that. I am interested in Trump and the farmers because there's conversations about subsidies and all sorts of things that we might get into. So I'm curious. And then, of course, he's going to comment on everything DHS and TSA. So I'm very curious. Now, this brings us to the 10-day pause and how you want to view it. Tony Katz. Tony Katz today, guys, an absolute pleasure to be with you, to be hanging out and doing this thing. It's a fun thing to do. I've done other things. This is more fun. President Trump saying, you know what? We will extend the pause for taking out energy sites for another 10 days. First, it was, hey, Iran, get your butts to the table, make a deal. And do that in 48 hours, or I am going to blow stuff up just to see it go boom. I'm going to be basically the late Bill Hicks. Hey, what does B12 do? If you've never heard that routine, excellent routine from the legendary Bill Hicks. And so it was a 2-day thing. And before the 48 hours was up, came a statement from President Trump. We're talking. There are good things happening. We're starting to work something out here. So let's extend this another 5 days. And the 5 days would get us to Friday, which some people would argue is today. But then the president last night said things are going so well, we'll extend another 10 days. So any of these oil sites, refinery sites, power plants, etc., 10 days, no strikes on those. It doesn't mean there won't be strikes on others, on other places, on other targets, etc. Now, Trump is trying to avoid hitting these places because he doesn't want to make these oil markets any worse than they already are. You had Brent crude, which comes out of the oceans, at $111 a barrel. $111 a barrel is higher than you want to be and has sent gas prices into a place that has people mostly upset. But for the sake of just comparison and people being rational, you have John Fetterman. That's right. The senator Democrat from Pennsylvania making sense of the world. Because when you take a look at gas prices, how come nobody ever complained about Biden's term?
I checked, where gas was a gallon, 2 years ago in 24, and it was around it's 360, 365 for a gallon. And the world wasn't on fire. And, I remember any Democrats complaining about it. And I gassed up my Jeep when I was in New York at the Sheets, and it was like 374, 375 a gallon. So I mean, like overall, yeah, gas is higher than it was before this when you are having an military engagement.
He is absolutely correct. Now, it doesn't change the fact that it's higher and the media is going to talk about this and others are going to talk about this. And Trump is very sensitive to this and rightfully so. Rightfully so sensitive to these things. And he doesn't want to exacerbate the issue. So he doesn't want to hit these spots. He doesn't want to make things more difficult. Can appreciate that. He also could be doing nothing more than saying, you know what? I don't have troop positions in place. I've got the USS Tripoli with 2,500 Marines that's making its way from Diego Garcia. I have got other amphibious warships heading their way to Karg Island or maybe some other islands there in the Gulf region. We're going to start taking those. You've got the 82nd Airborne making its way. The Pentagon wing sending another 10,000 ground troops to the Middle East, which, of course, gets people worked up in its own way. The delays from President Trump could mean a whole series of things. And again, I don't have an answer for the key thing, which is who in the world is he negotiating with? Who? But I would say, and I you haven't heard it yet, my conversation with Noah Rothman, it's deep and it's detailed. Noah Rothman of National Review. And it's to this idea that there are those in media, those on the woke right, they think they know everything and they know what everything means. And they think that they've got this all figured out. And they don't know, I believe the expression, to quote Tony Soprano, is ungats. They don't know anything. They desperately want to have an answer so they can desperately share an answer so they can show their followers exactly how smart they are. And they don't care if they're right or they're wrong. There's always a reason why they can change their mind, and somehow no one ever notices that they have changed their mind because they were full of crap earlier. Why is Trump engaging all of these delays? I don't know. Is it a misdirection? Is it to get troops there? Is it because he really doesn't want to take out these things? Is it because the negotiation's going well? We don't know. What is seemingly bothersome to the vast majority of Americans is that they're bothered that they don't know. And this is because we have, for the last few decades, engaged conversations as, here's how we're going to spend these 5 days, and then we're not going to do another thing. Here's what we're going to do is just a little ping, right? Just a little hit, little pinpoint drop. We're not going to do another thing. I like that we don't do that anymore. Or I should say, I hope that this is the start of not doing this anymore in the very, very rare instances where we may have to do this. It's okay that we don't know yet. It's okay that the people that we elected have people in control, in positions to be able to do these things because they've planned this out. And it is okay that we don't get every bit of information as soon as we want it. It's okay. What's not okay is that when these moves are made, we have a press or we have a woke right or others who want to say, well, he doesn't know what he's doing. Oh, he's bumbling this war. What kind of anti-American nonsense bull garbage is that? And I argue that you are right to despise those people. I do. They are not worth your time, your attention, your love. They ain't worth a damn thing. We do also have to ask ourselves, what is winning? But that might be another conversation for another day. Keep it here. This is Tony Katz today. Now, I want to answer a question, respond to something, because, Eddie, I am sorry if my honesty bothers you. I'd said really quickly I was answering an email. When I do the live stream is a companion, that's the word I'm looking for. A companion piece to the radio show. I am unabashedly a radio host. Now, it might not be that way forever. And part of what we've been doing here with the live stream is to see if this is my future. If radio can move out and this can be everything. But the radio show is my focus. That's where I'm paid. Right? That is my focus, being there for that. And I get to now engage the video in addition. So sometimes I'm taking care of something and then I get myself back to it and I am totally present for the radio side. If that is bothersome, okay, it's my show. It's my name and I'll do what I do. But when you write what the hell has happened to the media in Indy, I don't know about them, but I'm right here 6 hours a day in Indianapolis. Never mind what I do on weekends. Just so you know where the focus is. Now, what people would tell me is, man, your focus should be all digital. Why in the world would you even want to focus that's on radio? Radio's deader than dead. It isn't, but man, is it difficult. You're not wrong when you say the digital is the future and the podcast is everything, and look at what's happening, and look where dollars are going and attention is going. So I wanted to address that with you. I didn't say Iran isn't a big deal. Not in the slightest, man. No. I said we may not have all the answers. We may not be given all the information right away. That is okay. How possibly could you be given the information right away if there's no information to give? If Trump is extending out a time frame so he can engage in some other way, do I want him to tell people that? No, I don't. And I don't know why anybody would. I would think that's very, very, very weird. Go get a new radio. I didn't say radio is dead. I do radio. I'm a believer. I'm a buyer. I'm just saying that it's difficult in a world where podcasts have so absolutely dominated and digital dominates. I'm in a position of working on growing audience and growing stations. It's just much, much tougher than it used to be because there's so much bifurcation and so much competition, which, listen, competition is cool. You could try reading more sources, says Baddest Monkey. It's a fun name. He's extending his time frame because he's screwed. If he makes good on his threat, it would destroy the entire global market for decades. Well, since you're not in the room, I don't think you're right. But hey, if it helps you sleep at night. So we'll get more into what's going on with Iran and certainly the funding of the Department of Homeland Security. Tony Katz today. Guys, good to be here. Good to be with you. Can I share an insane headline with you? Crazed headline. Don't ask me if I made this up. I wouldn't know how to make this up. I wouldn't have the capacity to make this up. Here's the headline. Brother, sister, right? A brother and a sister indicted in alleged IED plot at Florida Air Force Base tied to Iran war. One suspect in China. That, kids, is a headline. And this has to do with a brother and sister who planted an IED out of MacDill Air Force Base, so this is the Tampa area, then fled to China. The son, I believe, is still in China. The sister came back. The mother admitted that the kids did this, and she is in ICE custody. The daughter is in custody, I believe, of the FBI. The son is somewhere in China. The charges against them about unlawful making of a destructive device, possession of an unregistered destructive device, a sentence up to 40 years in prison. I bring this whole story up to say, uh, if we're going to discuss who's coming into the country, it can't just be a conversation about Somalis. It can't be. We take a look at what has happened in Minnesota with Somali nationals. We take a look at the fraud, and we rightfully say this is wrong and disgusting, and people need to go to jail, and anybody here in the country on a work visa or anything else needs to be immediately deported. That is a correct answer. Absolutely the correct answer. I could not in any way agree more. If we are going to say we never allow somebody from Somalia in the country again, someone might say to you, there could be actual refugees regarding Somalia. And you cannot say that everybody who is Somalian is involved in this fraud. Although you can note that a lot of people involved in the fraud are Somalian. There's the difference. If we're talking about the Communist Chinese Party, no one connected with the Communist Chinese Party can be allowed to own land in the United States, a business in the United States, or get any level of visa to go to a university in the United States. As a matter of fact, we need to put an end to all Chinese students coming to American universities. It's not my fault. I didn't do this. I didn't cause this problem. I'm not the one going into universities with viruses stuffed into my socks like I'm Sandy Berger, engaging in experiments. I am not the one planting IEDs near military bases. I am not the one who thinks that the buying of land near military bases or anywhere else and launching drones isn't a very unique, if not very possible possibility. It's a national security conversation. I'm not interested in whether or not someone thinks I'm a bigot for it. I don't care. There are Chinese Americans all across America who are your neighbors and my friends, your friends. It's not who I'm talking about. I'm talking about clear, obvious connection to the Chinese Communist Party, cannot own a business, cannot own land. But when it comes to the students, we have to take the broad brush approach. This has to end. It must end. It is a serious, serious danger. And we can't pretend that somehow the things that we see with our own eyes and the connection points here don't all in one way or another engage connection to what we allow in terms of those who come into the country in a way too loosey-goosey kind of way. Now, Marco Rubio, he is at the G7 summit, and he, speaking to the press afterwards, talking about what it is that he saw, what it is that he experienced. I would have expected to have heard from him earlier, but he did hit the tarmac. There we go. Let's see if I can bring this to you. Let's see if I'm a trained professional or not.
News. You're watching live coverage.
And we're going to substantially, and I mean dramatically, reduce the number of missile launchers so that they cannot hide behind these things to build a nuclear weapon and threaten the world. As the Department of War has consistently outlined, we are on or ahead of schedule in that operation and expect to conclude it at the appropriate time here in a matter of weeks, not months. And the progress is going very well. Obviously, we have some work to do. We have to finish the job, and we are finishing that job. I did describe to our allies, however, that immediately after this thing ends, we're done with our objectives, one of the immediate challenges we're going to face is an Iran that may decide that they want to set up a tolling system in the Straits of Hormuz. Not only is this illegal, it's unacceptable, it's dangerous to the world. And it's important that the world have a plan to confront it. The United States is prepared to be a part of that plan. We don't have to lead that plan, but we're happy to be a part of it. But these countries have a lot at stake, not just the G7 countries, but countries in Asia and all over the world have a lot at stake and should contribute greatly to that effort to ensure that neither the Straits of Hormuz or frankly any international waterways should ever be something that's controlled or told by a nation state or by a terroristic government like the one that exists in Iran today and that radical clerical regime. So there seemed to be a lot of buy-in to that concept. There's a lot of work happening right now. The UK has played a prominent role in bringing that together, but other countries as well. And there seems to be a lot of acceptance of all that. And our allies and partners here, at least to me, seem to be appreciative of updates on our operation and an understanding of what lies ahead over the next few weeks.
Now, the question is, as President Trump really ripped into NATO about not being of help, which, we talked about it here. You can't have started this fight against Iran and then expected these European nations to come join you. They don't want to be seen as like stragglers. It's Johnny come latelys. It's just following the leader, being told what to do. They have their strength that they have to exhibit to their own people, right? And let's not deny that. It's pretty important stuff. Then when the UK had an opportunity to lead with the British Royal Navy to strengthen and free up the Strait of Hormuz, well, that was an opportunity to lead. So you got to give people that. Very, very important indeed. But the idea that European nations, where they get their oil through the strait, they need to be more participatory. He's correct about that.
Okay.
Those couple of weeks, how seriously is the United States considering deploying ground troops? And in those couple of weeks, what exactly will you be doing?
I won't discuss military tactics. I don't think anyone in our system is going to talk to you about what we have planned or what we intend to do, and there's obvious reasons for it. But to the extent it has to do with military tactics and plans, I would refer you to the Department of War, and the Department of War is probably going to tell you they can't tell you anything. So other than to say that we have objectives, I told you what those objectives are, and we are very confident that we are on the verge of achieving them very, very soon.
Any of the G7 were upset or off-put at all by the president's comments? And
they never act that way in front of me. Maybe they say that to you guys, and maybe they say that in other interviews or when they go on the press, but not in front of me they don't. I never get that. On the contrary, these meetings are oftentimes about thanking America for the role we've played in trying to bring peace in Sudan. The recognition that the president played a key role in ending what was happening in Gaza. Recognition of the role we've played in stabilizing Syria. Recognition, despite what they may have said in the press, that what we did in Venezuela was good for the world and good for our region in the Western Hemisphere. A recognition of the role we've played in setting up, along with others like Canada, the gang suppression force in Haiti. So, and appreciation for the mediating role we've tried to play in this war between Russia and Ukraine. So I don't know. I mean, you guys ask me these questions like if I go into these meetings and these people are angry, no one there screams or raises their voice or says anything negative. And if they did, I would remind them, but I don't need to, but I would remind them of the role America's played over the last year. Has been a very productive role and very helpful to them. And I would just say this, and I said this yesterday, I'll say it again now. Iran is governed, not the Iranian people. The Iranian people are phenomenal people. They deserve way better than what they have, which is a radical Shia clerical regime that has basically taken that country's wealth and used it not to build roads and bridges, not to build healthcare systems or universities, not to build a better, more prosperous country. They've used the wealth of that country to sponsor terrorism, build rockets, build drones, build missiles, build sea mines. That's what they've done with it, and try to kill people all over the world. And this has to be dealt with. That country was a threat for 47 years. Okay, that regime has been trying to kill and has been killing Americans all over the world for 47 years. We have a president that was not going to allow that to continue unfettered. So when we are done, Iran was already weak. When we are done with them here in the next couple of weeks, they will be weaker than they've been in recent history, and they will not be able to hide behind those weapons to break out and get a nuclear weapon, which would be crazy. For these people to ever get nuclear weapons would be crazy. Look what they're willing to do with the weapons they have now. They hit embassies, they target hotels, they try to kill civilians, they splash out at all their neighbors. Imagine if these radical lunatics had a nuclear weapon to threaten the world with.
And then, of course, they murder their own people. So you've got Marco Rubio answering the questions there about the meeting with the G7, which the press saying, are you feeling a lot of pressure? Haven't we learned this already? It's like the whole Greenland debate. Publicly, they're all up in arms. You can't take Greenland. We're going to stop you from doing this. We're going to have a talk with you. Privately, oh God, they pray quietly to themselves in the dark corners that the United States gets some control of Greenland so they can have Operation Golden Dome, or I should just say the Golden Dome, working on their behalf to protect them from the Russians and the Chinese regarding hypersonics. They already know Iran can throw a missile 2,500 miles and hit them. What kind of thing is this? Of course they want the U.S. to have some control of Greenland. They may not say it out loud, but they say it in private. Right? They know what's in their best interest. No, they're not screaming and yelling. And as we have seen from the region, the Arab states want Iran gone. Me, why do I want Iran gone? I want the regime gone so there's no more terrorist threat. And I would like to have 5 minutes of not talking about the Middle East. Boy can dream, can he? Meanwhile, President Trump has started speaking there at the White House. He's got a bunch of farmers in town. I'm going to bring that to you in full. So I'm just going to hit a little pause on that. And I will bring that to you in the next hour, because he's going to bring up Department of Homeland Security. He's going to bring up the war. And I assume he's going to say the price of beef. What's with that? I'm assuming that's what's going to come up. So I will bring that all to you. We'll take the quick break. I'm Tony Katz, and this is Tony Katz Today. Sorry. Dang it. Yeah, got it. Fixed. Sorry. Okay. So I'm responding to the story out of Axios, where a reporter is saying that Speaker Johnson has agreed with the Freedom Caucus. They had a meeting, and he's going to put a 60-day CR, continuing resolution, out there that funds all of the Department of Homeland Security, including ICE and Border Patrol, instead of the Senate passed bill. And I'm saying there's no way in hell he's doing that. I am saying there's no way in hell, no possible way that this is happening. Can't. Not without Trump's approval. This cannot happen in any way without Trump's approval. There is no way. No way. Just to be clear. Just to be clear. So, and when did I never share Weller 12? I have some Weller 12 here. And I have some, well, what don't I have? Honestly. On this, on the bar here, not underneath, top, I've got a good 50 bottles that need attention. Let me finish up with some questions that are being sent to Secretary Marco Rubio. Tony Katz today, and I'm staring incredulously at this tweet from Kate Santalis, or is it Santalis? She's with Axios. And what she wrote is that House Speaker Mike Johnson has met with the Freedom Caucus in the House. Remember, what the Senate passed to fund Department of Homeland Security, get TSA agents paid. First, we should be clear, that doesn't happen if President Trump doesn't say, here's an executive order, hey, Homeland Security, pay the TSA agents, which I have no idea if he can even do that. Right? Congress has the power of the purse. How do you write an executive order to get people paid? I don't know, but neither here nor there. The president was making action, and it caused the Democrats to engage a reaction, which was to say, okay, we'll pass this version. That's my take. So what she is reporting is that Mike Johnson agreed with the Freedom Caucus to, instead of putting the Senate passed bill on the floor, put on a 60-day continuing resolution that funds all of the Department of Homeland Security, including ICE and Border Patrol. There is no way that's happening. There's no way that's happening. First, if it's happening, it has to have Trump's approval that he wants to extend this out, and he thinks he can get TSA agents paid. That has to be a fundamental to this. You can still get TSA agents paid, and you can pass a CR to fund everything while y'all take time to work it out, putting pressure back on the Democrats, but not putting people's lives and livelihoods at risk. That is a political win. But I can't imagine Trump wants to do that, especially when you can pass anything regarding Border Patrol funding via reconciliation and not need any Democrats. So we are not done. We are not done with this fight. Meanwhile, President Trump, he's in front of a whole bunch of farmers doing, well, it's a lot of cowboy hats, farmers and ranchers. And the president is speaking to them. I will bring that to you coming up in a little bit. Keep it here. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today. Interesting. It does. Now, understand, no, that's not what I wanted to share. Sorry, Ken, I wasn't sharing this about Rural King. It was 60-day CR is a win for Democrats. Separating the funding within DHS is a lose. I don't know if I agree with the assessment in that the argument is we're not playing games. We fund everything and you don't get to make this call. Where I think the loss would be for Republicans is if there wasn't any guaranteed funding for TSA. I think Americans and at large, right, the vast majority think that what's happening to them is wrong. It's wrong that they're being asked to work and not get paid, and they're seeing the result of what's happening, and it's affecting we the people. So my take is that this isn't even a subject unless they've worked out the other things. Now, I should be clear, these are Republicans, and they're good at not working things out. Now, if you say to me, Jeff, remember, other people aren't getting paid like the Coast Guard. Coast Guard's not forward-facing. It's not public-facing. I don't interact with the Coast Guard. I have to stand online for 5 hours to get on a flight. That's the difference. It's a difference. It's a hard one to deny. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying why some things get focused and some don't. So here's where we are, right? The show is in radio break right now, so we will take the radio break. My advice is smoke them if you got them, kick back and relax, and we'll be back in just a few. Glad you guys are here. Stay where you are. Guys, welcome back. Tony Katz today. Good to be with you. Good to be here. We've got a lot to get to. Let me Let me get to this. And that. All right. So I've got President Trump right over here. And we're going to get to that and his talk to the farmers who are there in front of the White House. A lot of them. There's a whole bunch of people hanging out at the White House. So I want to share that. And what happened at CPAC? Do I want to know? Do we want to know? All right, let me see if we can do this real quick. This was CPAC. Let's see what happened. Hold on. Conservative Political Action Conference.
Would like to see impeachment hearings. No, that was the wrong answer. Let me try it again. How many of you would like to see impeachment hearings? No. Can someone bring some coffee out for the...
Yeah, no. They want to see Trump impeached? It's not a good look, people. Not at all. Let's get back to the I need context there. That is not what anybody wanted to hear. Oh. President Trump is speaking to the farmers. I think it's National Agriculture Day. Tony Katz today. Guys, a pleasure, as always, to be with you. He's up there. He's like on the balcony. There are hundreds and hundreds of people there. Producer Landon, you're right. It looks like all the extras in Yellowstone. And the president is speaking.
But I'm thrilled to welcome all of you to the South Lawn for the single largest gathering of American farmers that the White House has ever seen, has ever had. And rain or shine, and you don't mind rain, shine. The one thing about farmers, they don't care about that weather. They get out there, it makes no difference. But rain or shine, no one has more grit or greater spirit than the American farmer. We love the American farmer. I just gave you $12 billion. I don't know if you know that or not. You make enough money, it doesn't matter to you, right? But we just provided $12 billion, right, Brooke, for the American farmer. You think Biden would have done that? No, he wouldn't have done that. We're delighted to be joined by Secretary of Agriculture, who's doing a fantastic job, Brooke Rollins. Brooke, thank you very much. Secretary of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Robert, Bobby. EPA Administrator is doing such an incredible job. He's getting those costs down for you, and he's always protecting the environment, but he does it quickly. A real superstar, Lee Zeldin. Thank you, Lee. Great job. And someone everyone loves, and they love in particular the job she's doing, Small Business Administrator Kelly Loeffler. Kelly, thank you very much. Thanks as well to John Hoeven, Joni Ertz.
All right,
Pete
so he's going to go about giving a whole bunch of
chairman of the House
thanks and appreciation,
Agricultural
senators that are there and everything else. The $12 billion was subsidies. Remember, this was money that was going to be tariff money. Funny how that subject has fallen off the radar. Does he owe the money?
Monica De La Cruz,
you have to pay people back. You know, there are lawsuits about saying, hey, we were told you're not allowed to use the IEEPA, the Economic Powers Act, to engage tariffs, so we want our money back. And people are suing, and the White House is saying, we don't know how to pay you back. We don't know how to do this. Let the court figure it out. The court decided we couldn't do this. Let the court figure out. how it
They're only here for
is
your vote. You know that.
that we pay you back.
But they're here because actually
That's
they
where I
did a
think
great
this
job.
$12
Those were
billion
people that were
came
the
from.
most, I would say, the most aggressive for the farmer, which is what we want. Other than me,
The-
they were
the-
right in there. I was more aggressive.
The
than
ever
any of them.
growing hardship of farming, right? We talk about this in all sorts of ways. And, there's a great expression, I never met a poor farmer. But there is work involved here, and there are pressures upon here, and there is a regulatory issue here. And not everyone is playing on that elite level. There are plenty of family farms that are suffering right through it in every single way. So it's one thing just to have the gathering, but I'm curious if the president is going to get
But also
into
with us is the CEO of Tractor Supply.
some of what it is they're dealing with,
who will soon
and how
open
do
the
you, for
company's
example,
2,000
keep food costs low when you have oil prices going so high? Let's take it back to President Trump.
500th store in honor of America's 250th. Hal, thank you very much. It was great to meet you at the Oval Office 2 minutes ago. I also want to thank the president of the American Farm Bureau Federation.
I thought he had gotten past some of this. See, that's the trouble with live. We'll do it live.
American agriculture industry with brutal restrictions and failed to negotiate even a single new trade deal on your behalf. Not one trade deal was negotiated on your behalf during the Biden administration. And we happen to be the exact opposite. We have so many trade deals, we don't know what the hell to do with them. We need more lawyers. But now the American farmers, ranchers, growers, and producers once again have a true friend and champion in the Oval Office. And in my first year back in the White House, farm income has soared by 20% very quickly. I repealed the Biden EPA's ridiculous water restrictions. You had water restrictions that gave you everything but water. Yet it needed a little water. They wouldn't give you it. It was crazy. To keep federal bureaucrats off your land and out of your pockets, it's a big deal. With the help of Republicans in Congress, we passed the largest tax cuts in American history. Already 45% of filers have taken advantage of our new tax provisions with an average refund so far of almost $5,000, a record. In fact, we passed them and people are just starting to see how important they are. It's amazing what's happened. The numbers they're reporting that it's much more money than I thought. I tell you, I call it the great big beautiful bill. Is a great big beautiful bill, and it's especially in terms of your tax refunds and your taxes, because it's the lowest tax we pay. It's the biggest tax reduction in the history of our country.
Has anybody felt it yet? I was asking this question on my morning show. It's supposed to be, remember, this is what Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, really started digging into in December after listening to the show, of course. You got to let people know what's happening, what they can be expecting, what they got to be a part of. It's something that this administration does poorly. Get people into the fight with you. They think they could just give a dictate and everybody will fall in line. That's not the way it works. People have to be a part of it. Americans want to be a part of it. So the one big beautiful bill, which was so poorly messaged, is supposed to lead to larger tax returns, refunds. The question is, has anybody gotten anything yet? And have they noticed anything larger when you were doing your taxes, which are due in less than a month? Did you notice that there was more deduction, more coming your way? I'm just curious if anybody experienced these things as President Trump is saying this to the farmers.
It's also the biggest regulation reduction in the history of our country, which as farmers, you know what that means. It means a lot of good things. We made the small business tax deduction permanent, benefiting 98% of America's farmers and ranchers. And thanks to bonus depreciation, farmers can now deduct 100% of the cost of new tractors and all equipment in the first year. In other words, you buy a tractor, you deduct the whole price. Normally it goes over a 38-year period. This is slightly better. You got these tiny little deductions that weren't even worth it. Now you can do it at one time. Only Trump could have gotten you that one. That was a big thing. And in the first term, you know, we had the greatest economy in the history of our country. In the first term, we are blowing them away right now. And by the way, we're doing really well in Iran, just so you understand. You know, I mean, how good is our military? How good is our military? Very importantly, we saved 2 million American farms from extinction by virtually ending the unfair estate tax. We've ended the estate tax, or as they call it, the death tax, and you can now keep your family farms in the family. We had a problem.
That is a big deal.
See, these are all people that are clapping that love their children. If they didn't love their children, they wouldn't care about what I just said. But most of you, does anybody not love your child? Because that would be the one person that would have clapped the other way. No, it's a big thing. I would see farmers and they pass away. They love their life. They love this. There's something about a farmer, maybe more than anybody else. They love that. They love the soil and they love their farms, and they'd pass away and they'd have wonderful children, and the children would get hit with this massive tax bill for the value of the farm. Sometimes the farm is very valuable, but the cash isn't so readily available. And they'd go out to a bank and they'd borrow money, and they'd borrow and borrow and borrow to pay the tax. They'd be working for 20 years to pay it off. If they had a bad season, they'd lose their farm. We lost it many, many times. And you'd have actually many, many suicides over it. They would actually commit suicide because they couldn't stand the concept of losing their family farm. And I ended the death tax or the estate tax on family farms and small businesses. So I think you're appreciative of that. It was a terrible thing.
No terrible thing shouldn't be happen.
It's too bad that so many people in the past couldn't have taken advantage of it, because it would have made a lot of happy people out of people that really have had a miserable life.
Well, it's not that the life was miserable, it's the life was made miserable. This idea that somehow government is entitled to our labor is madness. That it's somehow unfair to leave things to your children, that belongs to some government bureaucrat because they decided that's what's good and decent. I have discussed this before. I want to leave it all to my kids. Don't tell me. I'll take care of any charitable organization as I see fit, but my job is to take care of my children. And if they want to spend the money the way they want to spend the money, just like I do when I'm alive, fine. I'm going to leave it to strangers and not my own kids? That's madness. Government thinks that they should be involved in that process. It is obscene. So what the president is actually engaged in here, whether he knows it or not, is a conversation about philosophy. The difference between us and them, the difference between the conservative and the liberal. It isn't theirs, it is yours to do with as you see fit without the concept of acceptance. No leftist gets to decide what you do with your money. And they sure as hell don't get to say, well, we get our share. It isn't theirs. I will decide what to do with it. And it's going to my kids. And anybody who would put forth a policy that says, no, it should go somewhere else, and you shouldn't have a say, that's someone you don't vote for. Not worthy of your vote, not worthy of your time, and not worthy of your love. We'll catch up with some more from President Trump in a moment. Keep it here. This is Tony Katz Today. Welcome back, everybody. Tony Katz. Tony Katz today. I think I missed some comments there. So I don't know, Carrie, and first of all, welcome to the show, if that was true about Delta. What I did hear was that Congress has, with certain airlines, maybe it's with all airlines, numbers that they can call to not skip the line, but to get the reservations that they need quicker, right? They have direct access. And I heard that was now held up, that while the shutdown's happening, they're not doing that. That's the way I heard the story. So I don't know if it's about skipping ahead of security lines, right? Because how could an airline prevent that? Because it would be TSA. But the airline could say, hey, we are shutting down our phone line to you for being able to get quick reservations or immediate connections, things like that. You have to go through the regular process. That an airline can control. So again, this is Kenneth now asking this question about skipping the front of the line at TSA. This goes back to a story yesterday that we discussed regarding Representative Nancy Mace, where she's accused of doing that. And she said the video they had was from over a month ago before the shutdown took place in New York. And I have a security team because I get a couple thousand death threats each and every year. So yes, I'm not surprised if they do. Now I've been in airports with members of Congress, with senators, and so they're waiting like everybody else. But I can't say I've ever been waiting in the TSA line with them, now that I think about that. So I'm not 100% sure what the rule is there, but it had to have been TSA and not an airline specifically. That would be my take. Wall Street Journal is reporting that Iran has blocked 2 Chinese ships in the Strait of Hormuz. We should take a moment to discuss how flat out odd that is. Iran wants to anger the Chinese? Well, bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see how it works out. Tony Katz today. That's something. Iran turning back 2 China-owned container vessels from the Strait. Now, Israel has mounted an attack saying it targeted Iranian weapons facilities and warned residents in parts of the city of Arak, A-R-A-K, to evacuate. Now, if I have an idea of where Iraq is, no, Iraq is in the middle of the country. A-R-A-K. That is in the middle. I thought that was for a second towards the Gulf. It absolutely is not. But you have this move from the Israelis as they continue to hit at military targets. Several countries in the Gulf intercepted drones and missiles, but strikes hit 2 Kuwaiti ports, 1 missile landing in Jordan. So, the Iranians are still firing all over the place and really trying to engage a level of just pure havoc. Do they think they could just create enough stress that this will end? Maybe they do. Maybe what they're wondering is, well, if we try this, maybe it'll work. Well, maybe we try this, it'll work. But maybe there are things that they're trying don't work because the equipment that they have doesn't actually work. But if you're going to go after Chinese vessels in the Strait of Hormuz, that's where do you think Iran's getting their money? Now, maybe they believe in this idea of the hostage taking, where you can charge these ships $2 million for safe passage. The world is going to be okay with being held hostage to living in a bribery world? I mean, there's already got to be some level of bribery that takes place with all of these things to keep these, pirates from boarding you and all that jazz. The navies can't be everywhere at all times. So maybe, it could just be, well, you didn't pay the VIG, so we're not going to let you through. But it's certainly odd that this would affect Chinese ships, considering that's where you're getting the money. They were trying to exit the Persian Gulf and they got turned away. The IRGC said the strait was shut, even though President Trump has said there was an agreement to let some ships through. The only thing I could see that you're doing in this scenario is creating the opportunity for the world to say, you know what, we got this. We're just going to end this, and we're going to open up to the best of our ability the strait. We're just going to open this thing up, and we'll let the chips fall where they may. But we're not going to have this anymore. We're not going to put up with this anymore. We're not going to take this nonsense anymore. No. We are going to handle this, and it's going to be very bad for the Iranians. That could be it. That could be what's next here. It's not the only thing going on. There is other news outside of what's going on with Iran, although it is the big stuff. And of course, you have the DHS funding, which is getting stranger and stranger. By the way, producer Landon, I think Speaker Johnson is talking. I just can't find that link. If he is, can you grab that for me? Thank you so much. You have this story that the FBI is now offering a $10 million reward after hackers linked to Iran were able to breach the emails of FBI Director Kash Patel. FBI said it's investigating. They call the data historical in nature, unrelated to government systems. $10 million for information identifying the Iran-based Handala hack team. I don't know. What does Handala mean? Do we have a definition there? Let me see if I can figure that out. Handala is a prominent national symbol and personification of the Palestinian people. This according to Wikipedia. Okay. All right. I don't just offer $10 million. $10 million to find the team, but $3 million for the first person who brings us one of their heads on a pike. And you say to me, my God, Tony, that is so violent and so gross and so despicable. Not as violent, gross, and despicable as hacking. These people who engage in the ransomware stuff, you understand, I believe, the same exact thing. The hacking, now this is of course war, and so you should expect many things to happen in war. But man, do I despise the hackers in a huge, massive way. Do I despise the hackers? Also, that they would tell us it's not, anything of major import of things being worked on. I don't know if I 100% believe them. We don't know what got hacked. We don't know where the access is. This is the latest. If I can get you Speaker Mike Johnson, I will. It's a busy day. Keep it here. This is Tony Katz today. All right. Thank you so very, very much. Guys, stay right there. I'll be back momentarily. Welcome back, Tony Katz. Tony Katz today. What's going on? You got me that link, producer Landon. Thank you very, very much. Speaker Johnson not supposed to speak yet? Okay. Because I want to see whether or not this Axios reporting is accurate. The very idea that they could look at this and say, you know what, we won't vote on what the Senate just passed and get the TSA funded. We'll just, we'll what's the word I'm looking for? We'll say, screw it. How about a continuing resolution and we fund everything? Without Trump's approval, I have no idea how this is happening. Three more things. Tony Katz today. Guys, it's a pleasure. It is good stuff. Three more things. These are things that should be headlines. But yet somehow, because everything is happening and everyone is insane, they are not headlines. What in the world just happened right there? There it is. A little bit of repeating. That wasn't the headline. No, the headline is Steve Bannon. Because if Steve Bannon is embarrassing himself, you want to watch. Steve Bannon was at CPAC. And Steve Bannon is amongst the class of not so much America First. They believe that any action outside of our borders is just neocon, John McCain, sexual fantasy stuff. And we are always wrong. We're always at fault. The idea of mistakes made versus always at fault, those are different things. But Bannon, and by the way, it's Steve's fault. He came at me. He came at me calling me a stock Republican. So every now and then I just got to bitch slap him. It's just the way it goes. I didn't do this, right? I didn't make the rules. These are the rules of the street. You come at the king, you best not miss. Yes, in this situation, I did refer to myself as the king, which I agree with you. Super weird. Steve Bannon, he's at CPAC, the Conservative Political Action Conference, and he thinks he's the leader of these people. And we shouldn't be at war with Iran. There was nothing imminent. We shouldn't be doing anything. And the Israelis are doing this and all that crap. And he's like, here, let me take a poll.
Let's do a little poll here. This is all hardcore MAGA leadership, grassroots leadership, right? Okay. That's the good news. Now comes the hard news. You got to make some choices. Who among you would advise President Trump we have to finish what we started? How many would say right now, get an off ramp and let's get out of here by Saturday?
I'd say 60-40 in favor of finishing.
65-35 for finishing.
65-35. He believes that he understands exactly where these people are and exactly what they think. He doesn't understand Ungats. He understands nothing. How much influence do these people really have? Why do we think it is so massive? That's different than whether or not I concern myself with any influence they have because there's a follower count. It's all bots. None of it's real. None of it's real. I don't know if I can risk the fact that none of it's real. And by the way, I never call for deplatforming. Let Bannon do his show and let Megyn Kelly do her show and Tucker do his show and Candace. I mean, admittedly, spending your day going after a widow is super weird. It's super creepy, super weird, but hey, everyone's got a fetish. But she's just a twist and a turn away from flat out being a stalker. What I want is an aggressive counter to the nonsense that they put forth. What they put forth is ugly. What they put forth is obscene. What they put forth is madness. And they're totally disconnected from where the people are. They're completely and totally disconnected from where you and I live, breathe, act, and act. I just repeated myself right there. They aren't close to understanding. What they are is very focused on engaging a certain audience and how much can they dominate that audience. We've discussed this before about 20 to 29-year-olds and how they are really kind of desperate to own and control that group. That's where the future is. That's what gives them the most longevity. So therefore, that's where they want to be. So that's number one. Then comes number two, which is how we are putting the squeeze on H-1B visa holders. The Labor Department is stating, via the Trump administration, that if you are going to have an H-1B visa holder, right? These are people coming in from other countries and work in certain categories, like, for example, software development. We are now going to increase the minimum pay that you have to pay them. The argument here is that if you are saying you need to bring in people from another country to do the work, the coding, the this, the that, the whatever it may be, they actually have to be worth it to you. And so this is, and the only way to describe this is, an artificial increase in the cost to try and get American workers hired instead. It's a bit creepy in that that's not how we see ourselves. It's not how we see America. It's not how we see Americans. It's not how we see how we do business, where the government says you have to charge this or charge that. That's not it. That is not who we are. That is not what we want at all. The other side to this is, have we been foregoing American talent for the sake of cheaper foreign talent? Have we been telling people there's no jobs for you, but ensuring jobs over there? Is that something that we should be doing? Now, this is maybe different than how we feel about, for example, trade deficits. And you're not buying as much from us as we're buying from you, and that's not fair. That's a problem. In that situation, that's not a problem. We've already proven that it's not a problem. And tariffs don't solve trade deficits, as we have seen. Remember, the tariffs suck. I'm going to get so yelled at. The tariffs suck. A trade deficit where you have some country where we're buying more than they buy from us. Well, they then invest in the United States, so we kind of get the money back. As long as we can get the goods at a good price, isn't that what matters most? And I would argue that the economics says yes, 1,000%. Is that true about the labor market? I'm asking because I think there's at least a worthy consideration there. I can do the math. I can show that it doesn't matter if we buy more from country A than they buy from us, if they're now going to invest in us, because we're the place that you do the investing in the markets here, in companies here. So good. That's good for us. And if having the trade deficit also means that the goods for our people are cheaper, also good. I'm also in favor of this. But if you have people who can't get a job because the job is going overseas, if you will, even if we're bringing that person here, I mean, it's an offshoot of, or it's just a different way to look at offshoring. Now, there are some people who will tell you that there isn't actually a difference. If you've got comparative levels of education and experience, there is a little evidence of pay disparity. This, according to the National Foundation for American Policy. Now, they are an organization that focuses on skilled immigration to the U.S. So they have a point of view. If we're hiring foreign workers because it's cheaper and we're now raising the price and it gets more Americans hired, the vast majority of people are going to say, good, we want Americans to be hired. We want this to take place. I would say that one could argue it on its national security merits. But I think that as people do think about these things, it might get a little stickier for some people. And then because I do like a good list, I'm a sucker for a good list. The 5 most reliable cars of all time. This was a story over at Autoblog, and I find myself looking for used cars all the time. All the time. I'm always searching for stuff and looking at stuff. I'm not always buying stuff. I have before, but I'm looking. So they went through. They went through a little bit of history. What are the 5 most reliable used cars of all time? I think it's just cars. 5 most reliable cars. They were built and they're bulletproof and they could do anything. Now, I know that one of them, although it's not on this list, is the Toyota Land Cruiser. That car will go on for forever. And then it's the sister of that, which is the Toyota Sequoia, which is the wider version. I actually own a Sequoia. Not a new one, a used one. It's what I like. And then, you've got the pickup trucks. So the 1983 to the 1997 Toyota pickup, according to them, unbreakable. 2.4 liter engine, ladder frame chassis, just supposed to be forever, a forever car. That was number 1 on the list. Number 2, the Ford Crown Victoria. For those of you who used to get arrested in the late 80s and the early 90s, Crown Vic, that is on the list. 4.6 liter modular V8. Between 190 and 250 horsepower. Then they get to number 3. Now, I will tell you right now, if I could find one of these, I would buy one of these. Mercedes-Benz 240 diesel or 300 diesel, which is the W123. And they built tanks. Absolute tanks. The 2.4 liter diesel 240D is 72 horsepower. Don't ask me. Tank will last forever. They then go on to the Honda Civic between 1996 and 2000. And yes, the Lexus LS400, first and second generation, 1989 to 2000. Yes, that car will last for forever and a day. More to get to, guys. Keep it here. This is Tony Katz today. Okay, welcome back. There we go. Okay, where are we? Radio is not dead. Far from it. Is that there are people who believe that, and you've seen, of course, the move to everything digital and podcasting, the videos and everything else, video podcasting. This is so much of what people are at. And so that's where people have moved to, and it's where a lot of time and attention has moved to. Certainly advertising dollars has moved to. I do ask myself, is do I have to move everything here and certainly not do radio? I haven't come to that level of conclusion, because radio has, for me, rather worthwhile audience. I don't know if that's true for everybody, but certainly is for me. Sorry, I'm looking something up. And as for trade deficits, Dusty, there you are. I would love for that to be the case. If it mattered. If it mattered. My point is, they don't matter. Lots of things matter in dealing with trade. Lots of things matter in talking about countries and how they work with us and whether they're we were engaged in worthy deals. And I'm not opposed to engaging tariffs to create deals on a case by case, not the broad brush. But let's not pretend that the tariffs have made us stronger and better. They brought us deals. I just want to see them implemented. Then we can say, hot damn. The one thing tariffs didn't do was create runaway inflation. That's something. The press has gathered to hear what it is that Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, is going to say, but I think we got a kind of preview of this when he was walking the halls in the House, and the press is speaking to him, and he was pretty clear.
We're going to get all the members together and decide that strategy this morning. But I'd say it's infuriating that Democrats are willing to inflict pain on the American people simply so they can defund the agency that is responsible, literally, for removing criminal illegal aliens. That's what this is about. They just put it on display for the country again, what they're for.
I don't think I'm an expert in Mike Johnson's demeanor, but maybe you and I were a little more observant than others because we do this every day. That's a pretty angry Mike Johnson. That is a pretty angry Mike Johnson. Listen again.
This morning, but I'd say it's infuriating that Democrats are willing to inflict pain on the American people simply so they can defund the agency that is responsible, literally, for removing criminal illegal aliens. That's what this is about. They just put it on display for the country again, what they're for.
Is there? I mean, you don't know until you know, but I'm telling you right now, they are serious about putting a continuing resolution on the floor of the House and dismissing what the Senate has done. We don't care that Chuck Schumer is happy with this. We're not playing this game. We'll get TSA funded one way or another, but we're not giving Schumer his anti-ICE anything. What is the calculation that the Republicans have done that this is the hill? And there's no way they're making this move. And so this was what Axios reported, that the speaker is considering forgetting what the Senate passed regarding funding Department of Homeland Security, which they did yesterday. They'll fund Department of Homeland Security, but not a Border Patrol, not ICE. And now it has to go to the House, right, to get passed because it's different legislation. And so the argument is the House is going to say, screw that. Here's a continuing resolution for 60 days to fund everything in the Department of Homeland Security while we figure it out. We're not going to give in to Schumer. We're not going to budge an inch. The only way that happens is if Trump's okay with it, and there must be a way to fund TSA agents. That has to have been accomplished. Watch for this. This could be fascinating. I'm Tony Katz. The only way this happens, first of all, if they do this, one could argue that they're insane. Put the thing behind you, pile on the Democrats for allowing this to happen, and move on. Is there a real argument somewhere in a basement somewhere? Someone did the math, sketched it out like Moneyball, that this anti-ICE sentiment, which is what Democrats are running on. They're running on Trump as an authoritarian. They're running on ICE and Trump's personal Gestapo, and they're running on Jeffrey Epstein. No policy. These are the three things they're running on. That's what they believe they can win on. All Trump hate, all about Trump all the time, right? Did someone do a math that says this is a hill worth dying on? And if you punch back, you'll get support because people support ICE? That all the loudness isn't real? Because very often loudness isn't real. Well, we're observers. What the hell does it tell you? It tells me that the only reason to consider this is that it's already been considered. The only reason to consider this is that they see an opportunity in it. Oh, I cannot wait to see what happens. Cannot wait to see what happens. But we will have to wait to see what happens. I've got more radio show happening. You can get that at WIBC.com. Be sure to do that. I can't thank you guys enough for being here. Now, you'll notice much less trolling. I don't actually know why. I can't do the math on that. We still do the shows both ways, both in the landscape and for the mobile. So whatever the case may be, it is. But less trolls, the better. Don't forget to subscribe there on YouTube, Tony Katz, and to TonyKatz.com. Can't thank you guys enough for being here. Thrilled that you're a part of the show. Agree or disagree, I liked some of the conversations today, even if I disagreed with it. But I appreciate that. That's the good stuff. Keep engaging. It's solid and worthwhile. Thank you, guys. I will catch you on Monday. Go enjoy yourselves. Take care.